Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Pathways to Excellence. Today we're very honored to have here with us Miss Thamini Vijeyasingam, one of the four Malaysians admitted to Harvard University this year, joining the class of 2028. Congratulations on your incredible achievement.
Thank you. I'm great to be here too, Victor.
How do you feel at this point in time?
I think it's starting to sink in more now. I think it didn't quite when I first opened the email and stuff. It didn't really sink in. So yeah, things feel a lot more real now that I'm thinking about like when we're leaving, what to pack. So yeah,
Whoa.
now I'm sort of feeling the
I can imagine,
excitement and
yeah.
anxiety. Yeah.
How was your reaction like on that day itself right there?
I think my reactions are very internal. So when I opened it, it was with a friend. I was in the office, and the office was
Ah.
empty because it was a Friday morning and I was at
Mm.
work. But I opened it and then the music started playing. And I was just like, oh my God. Thank God. Also because it was the last letter I opened on that
Mhm.
day. So I was really looking forward to good news.
Wow, congratulations. And also for the audience out there, so like it's actually been about 2 years since I've known Tamini. And the time that I met you, I recall it was at USApps. And
Yeah.
basically, was it at the start of your gap year at that time?
Yeah, that was pretty much I think that was a few months before I officially started my gap year. Yeah.
Ah, I see. Okay, great. The kind of pressure from Asian parents sometimes to like have their child, for example, just go straight ahead and then go straight into the workforce kind of thing, it can get unreal. So,
Yeah.
like, what was going through your mind at that time?
Well, I think one of the reasons why I didn't feel pressured to apply in that cycle and then only take a gap year if I didn't get in, partially because my parents were pretty supportive about me
Mm,
taking a gap year. Second thing, I thought about it for a long time and I was like, this gap year is not meant to be, I didn't want it to be like a safety net, and not to put it that way, but like I think I already knew that I wanted to be intentional with like my
mm,
next 1 year. And I thought it's kind of a waste if I put all this effort to apply now and then I do all of these things next year and then I can't, put that into my application when I think it could really strengthen it or make it better.
Ah, okay.
So I was like, you know what,
I
we're
see.
just gonna put my eggs in next year's basket and just see how it goes.
I see. Okay. Maybe can you tell us a little bit about your early academic background and the things that I guess shaped you maybe along the way as well?
So I went to ELC International School, which is in
Mm,
Sungai Buloh, and
mm,
I was pretty much there for my entire primary, secondary school, up until A level. So I guess for me, it was like a benefit kind of being in the same environment. I didn't have a lot of change, but that also meant that I had the opportunity to have a really good relationship with my teachers, some of whom taught me for maybe 5, 6 years,
mm.
and also saw me through like my character development, and then sort of the lows of like primary, secondary school and
Mm,
helping me through those things.
mm,
So I think that was something I really value quite a lot.
mm.
Yeah, it's basically a second home for me. Um,
Wow. And if I'm not wrong, then you went on to, I guess, the Methodist College of Kuala Lumpur to do your A levels, right?
yes,
I see. Good.
MCKL in Brickfields.
I guess what was MCKL like for you? I mean, like you transition away from ELC, going away from an environment, right, that you've been in for so long before eventually going off to, shall we say, MCKL. But
Yeah.
what I guess like catalyzed that shift for you?
Well, ELC didn't offer at the time any A levels program, so I did have
Mm,
to move regardless. But I would say MCKL was pretty fun, and I think that's considering my first semester was pretty much all online.
mm,
Because this was 2021 and like we were still in lockdown. So
mm,
I started the A levels course early. Like MCKL had like an early intake called Prep Cal. So it
mm,
usually starts in August and they started in June. But I was
mm,
sitting at home and I had nothing much to do. So I was
mm.
like, I might as well be studying if there's nothing else for me to do. Um, but all
Okay.
in all, I think it was a good environment. I had a lot of I'm glad I had classmates who were very responsive, online and in person. So it made
Mm-hmm.
sitting like listening to lectures on Teams a lot more fun,
Mm-hmm.
a lot more engaging.
Mm-hmm.
Um So I think without that, and my lecturers were pretty sporting as well. I know I used to make memes in class. Yeah,
Memes.
just to yeah. No, I really did. And they were pretty
Do you have an
sporting with that
example?
as well. Not on my current laptop. It's okay. I think some things are better as just memories, you know.
Very
Yeah.
true indeed. But you were certainly no academic slouch by any means. Like, if we look basically at your academic record, 11 A stars for the IGCSE, if I'm not wrong, and also 4 A stars for A levels.
Yeah.
I'm sure that even before your Harvard admission, like your family, your friends, and everybody must have been tremendously proud of you. To kind of start us off, Thamini, can you tell us a little bit about, I guess, what was pushing you?
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't say it was Harvard specifically because I don't think I had attached myself to any particular university. In part it was like fear of like, you know, if I attach all my dreams to this place and I don't get in, I'm gonna feel pretty horrible. But also I think more broadly was I didn't I mean not being able to visit quite like before the applications and like at the start of my gap year also it's kind of I don't really know these places, but they sort of fit the idea of where I want to go, what I want to do. And I liked the 4 year program a lot. Like generally the model of US education. I think I have a lot of niche interests and it was just a way for me to continue exploring that. Yeah.
Wow, okay. So like niche interests such as ballet, for example, I believe that you came back from like teaching a ballet class.
Yes.
And then of course there is Taylor Swift. Why Taylor Swift? Just out of curiosity.
My introduction was probably in 2014 when she dropped Blank Space.
Right.
That was a great
Okay.
album. I had an iPod at the time, and then I had the CD, and I didn't have iTunes subscription, so I burned like the CD songs into the iPod. So I pretty much had like 4 albums on that, and then Blank Space was one, and then sorry, 1989 was one of them. So
Mm,
that was pretty much all I listened to for a few months, and it made a very
wow.
strong impression. So yeah, ever since then, I've just been following her and her music. Oh yeah, I'm wearing her shirt right now.
Whoa.
This is her merch.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay. You know that there's a Taylor Swift class at Harvard?
Yes.
Yes.
I hope they continue it for the fall because I would love to take that class. My parents have like a bit of an eyebrow raise, like Taylor Swift. I didn't pay. I'm not paying for you to go there to study about Taylor Swift.
Yo, I mean,
But
like, the girl, like, has the ability to influence, like, diplomatic forces. The Singaporean Prime Minister had to defend himself because of Taylor Swift. I'm not sure, like, how
oh, the
you.
Tortured Poets Department. So proud of you.
Oh, by the way, like, what is your favorite song from this entire thing?
Oh, I really like the. You scroll down a little bit. Who's afraid of little old me?
Who's Afraid of Little Old Me? Oh, okay, interesting.
Number 10, track 10.
Let's read the lyrics. Why is this your favorite?
It's going Speak Now era if you've listened to that era of music. But it's I don't know, revenge song,
Revenge
angsty.
song. Okay. Taylor Swift, if you're watching this, give this girl a 22 hat.
I would like one. But she gives most of them to kids like at her concerts. So I think I'm past the threshold.
Pretend to be a very tall kid.
Conspicuously tall 5-year-old.
Cons- sure. Maybe you'll meet like Taylor Swift when she comes over for like an actual guest lecture. And then
Yeah.
like you'll go up to her and then you'll be all like, yes, can I have that 22 hat? But actually, well, now that I think about it, okay, if you could say one thing to Taylor Swift right now in the certainty that like she would hear it, so then like what would it be?
Um, Hello Taylor Swift. I love your music. I
uh,
would appreciate it. You know, I mean, you can. I feel free to send me anything. I would like love to have like something signed by you.
oh yeah, like
Sign my
like this
t-shirt.
the t-shirt. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool, cool, cool.
Interest wise, I would say that I mean maybe it feels a bit vanilla lah. Like I was into things like debate and model UN. For a
Mm,
while we had like theater, drama, it's like a co-curricular. That was pretty fun. But mostly like a hobby or like something I did for fun. I
mm,
think I pursued debate and model UN probably much more with a bit more effort and more seriously in secondary school.
mm. Do you feel that while your experiences with like debate, Model UN in some way, like, led to, I guess, like some of your interest in the modern age as well?
Yeah, I think definitely. I
Mm,
never formally studied economics as a subject in
mm-hmm,
at least until A levels. That was until 2, 3 years ago. So I
mm,
guess my exposure to that subject and those sort of topics and that kind of discourse was really through
mm,
debate, as well as through Model U and even philosophy. I think I used to dislike philosophical motions in debate just because they are so hard
mm,
to create a mechanism for, and it's a very
mm.
you're just arguing based on premises and how you characterize moral values and which one is more important. But yeah, pretty much an introduction into the academic fields I want to study today.
Wow. Your gap year is essentially not quite a memory yet. So if I'm not wrong, you interned, if I'm not wrong, at Undi 18, which is where you met Elisa, right?
Yes.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
she
it
told me
was
actually
it was
that.
a fleeting um fleeting. I saw her on Slack. I don't think I ever met her in person,
I
but I
see.
remember seeing her on Slack, and she was in the Undi 18 TikToks because she was doing the video
I
filming for
see.
the content. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. You went on also to Sustainability Matters, where you were a writer. Eventually, on to FMT's business desk. They were in no uncertain terms very proud of you as well, when they essentially declared, oh, she was an intern at our business desk in their article right there.
Yeah.
Did
I
you ever
thought
like
that was very sweet of them. Yeah.
did you ever like talk to them like after that article was like published and stuff of that nature? Like do you still keep in
Yeah.
touch?
I'm still in touch with my editors. I just visited the office recently as well.
Ah, I see.
So yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Then, of course, you were a part of the ICMS. That's a whole ball game on its own, where essentially you were, if I'm not wrong, the chief executive director. Then you did a whole bunch of different things like AMEU. You were project management intern at KAF Investment Bank, one of the
Yeah.
five banks that was granted a digital bank license.
License.
And also, currently now, you are a talent acquisition intern for Teach for Malaysia. Wow,
Yeah, you got that right.
amazing.
That
When you think back to the beginning of that gap year, how were you thinking to structure it and to kind of like pursue the many interests that you had at that time?
so my game plan was I have 1.5 years.
Mm,
And to me that pretty much looked like 3 to 4 internships, depending if I took 3 or 6 months at a time. And I think the 3 or 6 months was also a decision of how much do I like where I'm working. I mean, how long do they want to keep me? As well as,
mhm,
do I think I would have achieved like that full growth in three or
mm,
6 months? So at the very start, when I started planning, I was thinking, okay, number one, I know I've always been interested in writing, so I would really love to, and that was the first thing I was looking for, like opportunities to be in journalism, and to write
mm,
for any sort of news publication. Second thing that I was looking for was like research, probably on more academic side, trying to be a research intern.
mm,
Um, that's something that has done and didn't come to fruition. And I guess the third thing was I want another, NGO experience as well.
mm,
Um, I was in Undi 18 for a very short period of time, but I did want to compare and contrast the corporate environment to an NGO environment. But I was also kind of keeping a door open to like corporate roles. Although the reason why it wasn't a focus was because I wasn't expecting many places to hire like pre-U interns. And I think generally they don't
mm,
for any corporate or like big companies. So yeah, that
mm,
was the intention at the very start. I also had a goal to sort of be a part of student organizations or some sort of cause that mattered a lot to me, which came in the
mm,
form of ICMS, as well as the Economics Olympiad, which was
mm.
something else that I was like, okay, this is a goal that I want to hit. Yeah.
Mm. Okay, so the IEO is going to be one thing that we'll discuss. But before that, I'm going to ask what may seem like a sensitive question right
Mm.
here.
Shoot, shoot.
Which was your favorite internship?
Oh no, I can't say it. They're favorites in different ways. I think in terms of the work that I really enjoyed,
Hmm.
like the work itself was probably FMT, like going out, looking for stories, interviewing people, doing the research. I think just the dynamism of the work itself. And it was creative, right? Because I had creative license to pitch stories, to come up with things. That was what made it difficult, but also what made it rewarding. I think in terms of like the place where I really felt like a very like a really strong connection with the colleagues that I had was probably, I would say, KAF Investment Bank on the like KAF Digital Bank team. I had a really supportive manager. And I think everybody in that environment, it's a startup type environment as well. So that was a really nice experience in terms of what that working culture and the sort of support I got in terms of like all the tasks I was doing. Yeah, it was really, people were advocating for me as well. That was very nice. A lot of sayang, that I
Oh.
received and feel for that place. Then I would say even now, I think in Teach for Malaysia, it's kind of sort of giving me like new perspective of things in that sense. Not just their mission for trying to reduce or to get rid of education inequity, but also the way the organization is run. Super different, I think, from what I've seen, my limited experience in corporate and media. Yeah.
To kind of like think now about, I guess, those side quests, essentially that you went on right there, which led to, if I'm not wrong, some pretty incredible things along the way. So you were executive director, and not just executive director, chief executive director, and that's been essentially a big thing for quite a long while now.
I just finished my tenure, so I retired in
Oh.
February, March this year. So that was the end of my tenure. But to me, I think it has and will continue to be a community, I think, of very driven Malaysians studying locally overseas, of people who are just really working on personal growth, personal development, people who are, really ambitious, who are always striving for opportunities, but I think also people who are willing to support each other. And I think having benefited from like ICMS's own, alumni group where I provided advice, but also I actually wrote one of my recommendation letters that I submitted for my US applications. And I think all those things are very valuable, probably like intangible things that I do believe that, more Malaysians can have access to. And joining communities like this is a great way to expand that network and sort of gain that value.
What were you trying to drive the organization towards? I guess like in your own terms or in your own words.
Yeah, there's like a slide deck as well that counts with this, but it's okay. Yeah, I think when I came on board, it was the start of 2023. And I think at that point, the council had been looking to revert to fully physical events. I think even in 2022, if all of our flagship events and even the ones engagements we do in each of our chapters overseas, were still primarily online. So something we wanted to do was transition back to a physical setting. But another thing that we set as a strategic aim is to better position the organization to keep innovating, I think, and growing our initiatives. We have a lot of legacy, and I think as a 14-year long organization which pioneered one of the first like student run public policy competitions, there's a lot of legacy, but at the same time we also want to continue taking advantage of new opportunities that come up, because I think student market now versus 10 years 14 years ago, super different. Like in terms of the number of student organizations available, in terms of like how companies as well interact with these organizations and with students, yeah, a lot has changed. So it's about navigating that challenge, plus trying to convert as many events back to physical, and rebuilding up that know-how and that experience, yeah, with physical event management. Yeah.
Ah, I see. I can imagine that that must have been a unique experience, given that people, have become so used to, I guess, hybrid work or like essentially just doing things online like constantly.
Yeah.
So, okay, interesting. Along the way, though, you also pursue yet another fascinating side quest, which will transition nicely into, well, your area of study and various other things of that nature. As I understand, so like you took part in the International Economics Olympiad along the way. Like, how do you manage all of those things? Like, you interned at like, I don't know, like 15,000 different places. You were, yeah, basically doing like 100 different things. Like, how did you manage to prepare for and not only win a medal, but also in turn, well, manage to win best presentation at the case competition?
I mean, I think in terms of the general timeline of things, I was really only juggling three things
Mm,
in 2023, which was preparing for the IEO, my work, and then
hmm
ICMS. So I guess you would say that work was my 9 to 5, but actually it was 10 to 7. So the working hours when I was at FMT was 10 a.m. to 7 p.m.
mm,
Which checked out for me. I mean, it's a bit like funny coming back and it's like super dark at night. So you kind of feel like the whole evening is gone. But I
mm,
like kind of a morning person. So I had like
mm,
everything between like 7:30 to 10 to
mm,
like start my day to study a bit. Um, so I didn't know for sure I was going for the IEO until like March, April of 2023, because I had to sit for the like national selection test before that. So I was
mm,
studying for that, then studying for the second, like they had a few tests, and then only the real IEO. Um, so I would say it was a bit of a challenge as well. I would probably admit that I could have spent, if I had spent more time on the IEO, probably could have, maybe our team could have done better, or I could have gotten a better medal as well.
mm,
Um, but I made a choice as well to spend maybe more time, put my focus and my priority at the time was definitely ICMS. I mean, I would also say that the week before we flew, so the flight to Greece for the competition was on Sunday.
mm,
On the Friday night, was Sunday night, sorry. On the Saturday night, we had our first like physical gala dinner. We had
mm.
about 250 attendees for ICMS. Alumni, partners, and sponsors came. So the whole week everybody was focusing on grinding for that event. And that whole week I hardly like opened my iPad to read the textbook or
Mm,
anything of the sort. So I
mm.
studied a lot on the flight. Because the Sunday itself in the morning, we had a dry run for one of our other events the next week. So it was
Mm,
a hectic time.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah, but
Mm.
it is what it is.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta choose what's important to you. Okay, then. If we could, then maybe let's think about that hard-won battle. Because, like, I'm sure that when you're going through, I guess, like applying to college, like there's gonna be a bunch of different things: self-examination, self-reflection while you're writing college essays.
It was pretty interesting. Um,
Mm,
but I think as a person who generally I introspect, I wouldn't say very often. I used to journal very frequently, but my frequency is sort of like once every few months, I'll just dump
mm,
everything. But I still have that sort of practice or that touch point. Whenever like I was like struggling with essays, I'll just go open up and read back, and all these things to sort of think about
mm,
the kind of person I've evolved into or I was, in terms of
fascinating.
writing that. But it was also a very long process for me. As a person, whenever I have to write stuff or I generally produce multiple drafts. I'm a drafter by nature. I so
Mm,
I I think at the point at which I met you, I had actually drafted some essays already.
mm,
And that was like 2 years before 1.5 years before I needed to submit anything.
mm,
And after that point, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna leave this. So I didn't touch it. It was just in my Google Docs for about a year. And
mm,
then 2023, like towards half of the year, I was like, okay, I'm opening up the portal. Then I look at all the current questions. Some of them didn't change, which is like, I guess I can reuse whatever I wrote 1 year ago. But
mm.
ended up changing vastly a lot of the essays. So it's a lot of
Wow.
revision.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very grateful to have had friends who were willing to like read version two, version three, and still give me feedback on it. So
Mm.
yeah.
Wow. It sounds like you'd known for a long time, like this was what you wanted.
I guess so. It was something I was working towards, lah. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Wow. And like, where did that motivation come from? I guess to one day attend maybe like a great school.
I guess it was a mix of what like a bit like what I wanted. To also kind of what would like what is like ambitious and my parents would also be like, yeah, this is a good place for you to go. And then
Mm,
three, I think I have probably some like media influence, and sort of
mm.
the image that was projected to me of these places as well. So combination of all those three. So I like to think that the first factor was the strongest.
You mentioned a little bit earlier that one of the things that you did was reflect on who you had evolved into as a person along the way. And when you were essentially creating your application, so how do you feel that that manifested really in your essays, and what was that process like for you?
I would say it was quite hard. Like I am not a person who likes to share overly personal things with people I don't know. I
Mm,
guess I'm a bit guarded in that way. So for me, it's like all these random people gonna be reading all of these extremely personal things.
mm,
So it was it's a bit hard to be like. Also, you're kind of thinking like, what are they gonna think when they read this? So the
mm,
whole time you're sort of writing with the intent to appear a certain way, which is a hard bias to shake. So
mm,
I think I was also kind of struggling like how authentic or how raw do I want this to be? Like I think to a certain extent as well, they don't want to know everything, or maybe you shouldn't be showing everything as well. So a lot of my different drafts sort of bounce between varying levels of this is very this is just whatever like I wrote and it just came
mm.
out in a burst, and this is a curated version, something I think people would want to read, which is why I think some of my very close friends to sort of read and sort of feedback and be like, this sounds like you, this is okay, but
Mm.
anybody could write this. Yeah.
Mm, I see. Interesting. Of course, I wouldn't want to intrude upon your privacy, but just in very general terms, right? So, what did you choose to write about?
I think in the end, I probably had multiple of quite a few reflections on the things that I did slash do. So whether it's like my role in ICMS or even like dance, um, sort of my relationship with ballet throughout the years.
Wow.
But my main comment up, I think, was about writing, and sort of the ways in which I have changed, and I think it's meant a lot to me from like journaling to someone who used to write a lot of creative stories, which were really like fictional stories, which were really bad in like primary school, to
Mm,
more academic and like quote unquote serious writing, position papers, then event proposals and stuff like that. So
mm,
yeah, that evolution and then
the
how I've
evolution.
evolved
Wow. Okay.
along the way.
Am I looking at a future, well, Yang Zichu,
Um, I
novelist? Who
I
knows?
don't know. No, I
Maybe.
don't know that.
Okay. When a Malaysian student applies for and is being considered seriously by Harvard, so they essentially experience an interview as well. So then,
Mm.
would you share, I guess, like your experience with that interview, how it was like, and yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think going into the interview, I was like, I think I'm going to find it easier, quote unquote, than like the Oxford interview that I had to do. Because I think that was pretty academic. You feel pressured to solve questions because then they're asking you to
Mm,
solve academic questions. And I was like, it was physical as well. I had done one virtual interview before that. So
mm,
I prefer physical, I think physical settings as well. So I was like, okay, I think this is gonna be fine. But I was a bit nervous, to say the least. So the interview it went by faster than I expected.
mm.
Um, I didn't feel very good at the end of it. I thought I'd yapped too much.
Oh.
Like in all seriousness,
um,
at the start, I had like, okay, this is like a list of things, and like I prepped for it, like qualities and things that I want to mention. And in the end, I probably only got through like, I don't know, not even half. I don't actually remember. Yeah, not even half. I think I was like, oh, I didn't mention some things that I think are important. And I was like, it's
I
okay,
see.
you know, yeah, carpe diem.
Carpe diem indeed. Were you
Yeah.
chatting with Nadia and also Nick by any chance?
Both of them.
Oh, both of them at the same time. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
interesting. And yeah, so now is when I ask you, like if you were, I guess, like to, because one idea is going to be appearing on this channel in a couple of weeks right here. If you could ask her, well, one question that maybe you haven't had the chance to explore just yet, then what would it be?
No, unfortunately, I don't have many left. I did ask her questions at the end of our interview that I
Mhm.
wanted to know. And I guess also, and as I'm like sort of just moving into like the preparing to leave stage, I haven't yet formulated questions that I guess for her specifically.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, if you want something to ask her, I think it'd be pretty interesting. Just like, oh, how's it like running the alumni club? You know,
Future Harvard
what?
Alumni Club president right here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. You've had essentially some experience studying, well, economics, essentially, both at the Olympiad level and also at the, I guess, the A levels phase of your life. So then, from what I know, one of the things that you'd like to study is economics, and the other thing is philosophy. Is that, I guess, like still accurate?
Yeah, it's still accurate. Yes.
Ah, okay, interesting. Well, then let's talk a little bit about that then. What makes economics and philosophy fascinating to you? And I guess, what are you looking forward to as you head off to Harvard?
Well, I think to preface this, the part I like most about economics, I think, is the behavioral part. So I've read a bit about Daniel Kahneman, rest in peace. I think he passed away recently.
Mm,
As well as Richard Taylor's books. And I think what I find interesting is, decision making, how people make decisions on an individual level, and then what that means for policy, right? I think a lot of Richard Taylor's books talk about certain policies and why they had maybe an opposite effect to what was intended. This is because of the way people responded to that policy.
mm-hmm.
So that's something that's been interesting to me. I also used to watch this National Geographic program. I don't know if you know, it was called Brain Games. Um,
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
and then at the time I watched it, it was hosted by Jason Silva. So that was I liked that show a lot. He basically went around playing games with people. So they were either
Mm,
psychology games. Some of them was really game theory as well, like split or steal. How do you know what motivates, or what's the incentive for a person to split or steal? Um, so when I formally studied it, I made that connection. I was like, wow, basically I was watching this, and but you don't realize what it is at like a higher level. Like to me, then it was just like, oh, this is kind of a cool game. Um, so yeah, that's economics. I think philosophy more about like when I was introduced to it in debate, I didn't really like it. Just because
mm.
those debates are very hard to win. That's probably not a great metric for my interest in the subject. But I think as I like read more about it, it's a contemplative thing. It's something I like to think about. And logic, like the logic component of philosophy as well, is super interesting. I've read like Logic Made Easy. It's quite interesting to see how the way things are phrased or arguments are phrased, certain language cues will give people different impressions, or their understanding of it, the way they process that information will be very different.
Mm,
So that's also quite curious to me. Yeah.
mm. Do you have, I guess, any favorite philosophers that you, well, kind of move towards, I guess, like when you think about philosophy?
So favorite philosophers. Um, I have yet to read deeply enough into anyone's particular work to really say that I love
Mm,
this guy. He's great. Um, but I guess one of the books, and it's not like a philosophy book, one of the books that I really like that I think asks a lot of these questions is The Picture of Dorian Gray, by Oscar Wilde.
ah,
Yeah, maybe like a cautionary tale, right, of like how to
mm,
live or not live your life. So
mm-hmm.
yeah.
Like the way that the soul can essentially be twisted essentially on the inside, even if the external
Yes.
appearance of a person is, I guess, maintained at perfect beauty.
And I think on top of that, like the whole book is like beautifully written, and it's not like long or draggy
Mm.
like Stephen King is. Sorry, Stephen King. Yeah.
I guess when you head over to Harvard, then, well, how do you hope to pursue some of these interests? Like, do you have like any like specific classes which you would like to take at this point, or?
Currently, the big plan is just, I think, major in economics
Mm,
and possibly minor in philosophy.
mm.
Um, okay, let me open up my notion since you asked what classes I'd like to take. Let's
Whoa,
see.
whoa, 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 whoa,
Let's
whoa, 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 whoa.
there's some things that I've written down. Oh, let's see. Okay, there was I saw philosophy of Jane Austen. As someone who
Ooh.
loves, I've read almost not almost all that, like a decent number of her books, and really enjoyed them as well as like their film adaptations.
Mm.
That's something that I was like, this is so interesting. I really want to take this class.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
So lots of.
This,
Mhm,
yeah. Yeah, there are a few interesting phil classes, I think, that
mhm.
are looking at different heights of philosophy. I saw like the art of living,
Ooh.
but also some analysis on like Western versus Asian philosophy,
Mm.
which yeah, I feel would be a thoughtful class to take.
Can I ask you to so of course like it may be a no, of course, but like can I ask for an insight into your mind and ask you to share your screen to look at the vast array of different classes that you have available at this point?
Um, oh, I can't share screen.
You can now. There you go.
Oh, thanks.
There you
I
go.
mean, it's a very rudimentary list. I sort of just went through the requirements and then whatever I thought was interesting, I was like, okay, let's just make a note of this now.
Ooh, wow. Let's see. The true and the good.
Yeah.
The art
Intro
of living. Wow.
Oh, this
Hashtag.
is the Taylor Swift course.
Oh, okay, Taylor. It's nice because like you see that there's like a TS like code right at the
I
back right
know.
there.
I was like, they really
Ah, I
they
see.
really committed to it.
Wow. And you also have like some MIT Crossrec right there.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah. Here there are more.
ooh, that is fascinating. Justice, amongst
As you
other
can see,
things.
this it's pretty funny lah. There's all
Mm.
these serious topics, and then suddenly there'll be like introduction to costume design.
And then also like games for learning amongst other things right here. And then there's like writing for weirdos. Wow.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
this was I mean the description of this first year seminar was pretty interesting. So I was like, you know what? Maybe this is my era to return to creative writing. I don't know.
yeah, writing for weirdos right here. It's like U Chicago 1 day simulator course.
POV, I'm a U Chicago student.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, so like I'm sure that that'll be like super interesting right there. Like you seem to have a very diverse array of interests.
Yeah.
Well, I know you spoke a little bit about, well, what appealed to you about the US system, I guess. But was there ever a time when you were thinking maybe about, well, studying somewhere apart from the US?
Well, I applied to the UK as well.
Mm,
Um, which I guess is typical pathway for most A-level students.
mm,
Um, so that was something I was thinking about, 3-year course, because I think to a certain extent I also know what I want to do.
mm,
Like I'm at the moment I'm pretty firm about studying economics.
mm,
So for
mm,
me it was like if given like if I had gotten rejected everywhere in the US, then I would have been pretty happy, I think, to go to the UK and study.
mm.
Yeah, so
In that alternate history, where would you have gone then?
so I was given offers to Leeds, Warwick,
Mm,
Oxford, yeah, and Oxford.
mm,
So I would have probably gone to Oxford in that alternate scenario.
I see. Interesting. I think that you had a senior who made essentially the opposite choice as
Yeah.
yeah, like he essentially got into Harvard, but then he went off to Oxford to do medicine. That was interesting right there. Can you
Oh, but
imagine making that choice?
I think I wouldn't. But I think if I wanted to study medicine, I would have made the same choice lah. Like I
Okay.
think it just makes so much more sense. But yeah, I think for me it was like I
Mm,
can still get a great economics education in both schools, but I would probably afford myself a little bit more of that academic intellectual freedom at
mm,
Harvard, you know.
I see. Incredible. Well, okay then. I guess, oh, right. What is the first thing that you're going to do when you eventually get to Harvard? This is like interesting right there because like some of y'all out there want to eat fried chicken. Not gonna say who, but well, yeah. The first thing that you do when you get to Harvard.
Um, I don't know. I would probably say that different from what I would want to do. What is most likely is that um yeah, I'll probably take a photo with my parents on the first day, move in.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's probably the most realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but things that I would like to do,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I haven't
Haven't quite thought
quite
about it.
thought
The
about it.
universe
Yeah.
is an open world right here. You are the main character, and like, what are you gonna do right there? Who knows?
Yeah. We'll find out.
We'll
We'll
find out.
see.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
Well, kind of moving beyond that then. Well, when you think about, I guess, your, I guess, short-term goals and basically also, well, a future that lies beyond Harvard, well, what is it that you think, well, all of this will eventually lead to in the best of all possible worlds?
A hard question to answer. I don't quite know how I want to like specifically apply whatever I've learned. I think that sort of realizing post gap year, there are a lot of avenues like
Mm-hmm.
working in media, working in journalism, one way. But also I feel like I would want more experience in a certain industry, certain field before I jump. I don't want to like jump straight into media. So I don't know if that's going to look like corporate experience or hopefully research experience is something that I hope to rack up. Because at the moment I still don't quite know how much I enjoy doing that sort of work. Whether
Mm-hmm.
academia is a possible, pathway. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so between those things, yeah, or even like social enterprise, which is sort of the experience and work I'm doing now with Teach for Malaysia.
Ah, I can imagine. Cool, cool, cool. And then here actually is a question that is explored every single year. But
Mm,
to kind of begin that exploration, I'm gonna share the screen with you. Every single year, Harvard students or people from Malaysia who are accepted to Harvard are featured in the newspaper. All of you have essentially this like one picture right here that's like part of the whole archetype. But part of the archetype also is people, and I don't know, like this is like a kind of weird thing that like you see
okay.
asking the question or commenting on Facebook, come back and contribute your talents to Malaysia and stuff of that nature right there. In
Mm-mm.
fact, so there is another article right here. It was also in the Star a while ago. So yeah, have a look. Boom. Harvard girls with a heart for Malaysia. Of course, he's not a girl, but like nonetheless. But anyway, yeah, here you have and two of them have vowed to return home to serve
Wow.
after they return from the
Mm.
United States. I guess like how are you feeling really about well potentially coming back to Malaysia at some later point?
I mean, I think for me, I definitely will come back at some point.
Hmm.
Um, I just think that I don't know. I cannot really imagine living an entire life in a different country at this point in time. But also like a lot of family is here, and I would want to be with them, and that's one of the things that's important to me. So
Ah, I see.
I think that quite, yeah, for me, kind of cements like I will come back somehow at some point.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. I don't know if we managed to like avoid one brain drain right here, but like interesting. Cool. Well, all right. That is most wonderful for sure. When you kind of well think, I guess, towards the future, I guess like are they are there any specific things that you're really, really looking forward to or say, a wish that you hope will be fulfilled by the time it is that you, I guess, go off to the US, begin a new life, and do various other things like that?
Oh, a wish before I leave.
Maybe.
I mean, I think I definitely like to see more of the country. I think I have not traveled to that many states, unfortunately. So that's something that I think would be really nice.
Oh.
I've been meaning to, I was supposed to go on like a trip with some of my close friends since we left high school, but it hasn't like
Ah.
happened yet. So
I see.
hopefully that will realize itself this summer.
I
Um,
see.
but yeah, I think bucket listy things.
Mm.
Um, there's sort of a mix of things that can be achieved here and overseas. But I think definitely before I leave, I need to know how to make biryani and
Is
nasi lemak. Yeah,
that
in a
is
rice cooker.
wow. Will somebody be teaching you or
Yeah, my dad.
wow.
But also yeah, sure. I think I can definitely do it. Like I can follow instructions, as long as there's a
Mm.
recipe,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can follow instructions. Yeah.
Mm.
I'm not like an amazing chef, but
Wow.
I can follow instructions, I can cook.
For some reason, I don't know, like amongst the Harvard girls this year, like both of you somehow want to cook.
Oh,
It's a thing,
yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, I think that's like you can't really replace the like I don't know spice mix that we have at home. So
Um, and speaking, I guess, of like, well, classmates, like, have you had a chance to like talk to them, like quite a fair bit? And I guess like, what's the general vibe, that you're getting at this point in time?
we've chatted online, like on Met and like in a virtual setting. So we haven't met anybody. I haven't met anybody physically. I even spoke to some of the that the Malaysians going to MIT this year online as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so overall the vibe is good. I mean, I think that's one of the things I'm not too worried about. Like I feel like
Mm-hmm.
we'll go there,
Mm-hmm.
and regardless of like if we would get along in a different scenario because of the circumstances, I'm like, oh well, we're all Malaysian. I think we will get along. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a bit like well, if it's meant to be, it'll be with friendships. I guess that's my approach. So
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
yeah, just
I mean, like you can't
yeah,
force anybody,
yeah.
so yeah,
So
it's
so
not like
far
a
it's a good vibe.
okay, amazing, cool, cool, cool. Well, I hope that you guys are gonna have like a good time there.
Hope so too. I mean, touch wood, it will happen. We're manifesting.
So as we move kind of towards the end of this interview, are there any specific people that you'd like to maybe like shout out or like thank as you kind of like go on this epic journey?
I mean, I think the list is really long. I could probably give you a lot of names, but like some of my teachers, I think throughout primary and secondary school, people like my primary school science teacher, Miss Fiona.
Mm.
Um, yeah, she used to correct me a lot because I used to speak super fast. She always used to tell me enunciate, which is great because now I don't speak and people can actually understand me when I speak. My
Mm.
debate coaches, Miss Iris, Miss Shalini,
Mm.
so my home teachers, Dr. Deepa, the people who work with us as like when I was a prefect, Mrs. Chong, Miss Sheila, a lot of my friends as well, who read my essays,
Mm.
Krishan, Kelvin, Angel, Lauren, and then my MCKL friends and lecturers, who I think when one of my good friends, when I was like going through the whole process, I would like send her voice messages and be like,
Wow.
"There's so many essays to write, like please send help." And then she would always be like, "No, it's okay, keep going, jayo, jayo." So like my cheerleader for real, for real. Yeah,
I'm sure that they'll be very happy as well. And yeah, so like hashtag good vibes to every single one of you out there. Congratulations. Our girl is going places. Good vibes to every single one of you out there. Congratulations. Our girl is going places. All right then. So if you were to give the next generation of students who are coming after you a single distilled piece of advice, well, so that they may walk on the same path as you, or if not walk the same path as you, because of course it is a tremendously privileged
mm.
situation to be in, but just a single piece of advice that you would give to the younger generation, knowing what you know now.
Start early, be
Mm-hmm.
intentional. don't be afraid to call, email, cold message people, looking for opportunities.
The Lulu is the
Um,
Lulu.
yeah, sometimes it is. And yeah, I think just be intentional.
Mm,
And I think just make sure that you look for people who can support you. And then I think that's the way to go.
incredible. Cool, 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 cool. Do you have any, well, projects, ideas, thoughts, or, well, specific things that you'd like to share with the audience or that you perhaps like to share as well?
At the moment, not quite, but I mean, if anybody's watching, feel free to. I think ICMS and AMU do some pretty good work in terms of like
Mm,
events, which can be a good gateway to meeting people,
mm,
whether that's like peers or even like potential mentors and stuff. So I definitely say, put yourself out there. It
mm,
it pays, I think,
mm,
to really try to make those connections like and meet these people. And honestly, usually like you'll click and then you'll be it'll be great, like great vibes, great relationship, and you'll help each other out. So yeah, subtle plug to like come and follow ICMS. Um,
mm. Yes,
yeah.
indeed. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thamini Vijayasingam, springtime of life enjoyer, Taylor Swift mega fan, right there, as we can see from the t-shirt.
Yeah.
And Harvard class of 2028. Congratulations once again, and thank you for coming on Pathways.
Thank you for having me.
Hashtag bless.